and welcome to the Women Advancing Live podcast. Here you can listen to the unique stories of the women who make live events a reality. These conversations feature talented professionals such as concert photographers, VIP coordinators, tour managers, and more. I'm your host, Lisa, a live events and touring professional. I strive to help other women who aspire to work in the world of live music. In this week's episode of Women Advancing Live, I talk with tour manager Maya Dottin. She began working in live events in 2021 for a local concert promoter in Toronto and got her start in touring in 2023 when she went out with No Worries as the production coordinator for their European and UK run. She has since had the opportunity to work on other tours as a merch manager and tour manager, and has worked with acts such as Cavetown, Rexop, Maya, Housewife, and Meet Me at the Altar. You can follow her over on Instagram at Maya_J_Main. Tune in to learn more about her journey working in live events. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Women Advancing Live. Today I'm joined by Maya. Hey Maya, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking the time to come onto the podcast. I'm super excited to get to hear from you and learn more about your experience. But first, before we get to the interview, I like to start out with some quick icebreaker questions. So the first one I have is, what is something you always have to pack with you on tour?
You know what's really funny? I always pack, ever since my second tour, I've always packed those Bean Boozled games so you get at Five Below.
Himboozle?
It's like a game, it's like a jelly bean game. And it's like they give you a bunch of different jelly beans and it's like, oh, like it could taste like strawberry smoothie or like dead fish.
Oh, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
I've been carrying those around every tour and I do it with almost every crew that I do, and it's the funniest thing ever. That is the necessity.
Oh, that's fun. And what's like the worst flavor you say you've gotten so far?
Okay, so there's one with the gross one and then one with spicy one. The worst is the spicy one because they have like Carolina Reaper. That one is deadly. I tear up every time I have it. It's insane. I don't know how they put so much spice in a small bean.
Can you tell by like the color or is it?
No, because it's like it's the same color and it's like it could either be like a good taste or a bad taste, but they're all the same color. So I'm like, damn it, every time. I get the worst ones every time.
All right, next question. What is a song or artist you have been putting on loop at the moment?
Definitely Tinashe.
Ooh, okay.
Definitely Tinashe. Love Tinashe so much. I she just had like two recent tours, one earlier this year and then one late last year, and I missed both of them because I'm on tour, and I was so mad. But she's doing Coachella, so hopefully I can see her. I really want to go,
Yeah.
even if it's not Coachella. I know she's doing some festivals. She's cooking it. She's cooking up this summer, so I'm ready to see her.
2024 will be your time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Next question. What is one of your favorite concerts? Either you attended as a fan or you've worked.
Favorite concert? Oh, I think my favorite concert that I attended was Lady Gaga's Chromatica Ball. She just did that last summer. I went, I think it was last summer with my one of my best friends, and that was amazing. We got the tickets like back in like I think 21. And then it got canceled for COVID. And then when we were finally able to go, we forgot how good our seats were, and we're like, oh my God. And it was so bad.
I got to go to that concert too, and it was freaking amazing.
Amazing. The pyro was crazy. The fire, we were in the 100 sections. I could feel that fire from there. I was just like, if you're on the floor, how are you not toast right now?
Literally sweating.
I'm sweating, sweating.
Yeah, and then her whole wardrobe and her whole production value. So
Ugh, she is so amazing live. It's crazy. So amazing. Love her so much.
awesome. Thank you for answering those icebreaker questions. Now, on to the first question of the interview. I asked this to every guest just so our listeners get a brief overview of who you are, your experience, can you please tell us how you got your start in live events and your journey up until now?
So I started getting into live events because I was really into concerts, but I really didn't go to like many as a kid. Just because like one, I couldn't afford it, two, it just like was not top of mind for me. But I would always like watch tours. So like the first tour that I fell in love with was Lady Gaga's Art Rave tour. And that one, like the production was just amazing. I don't know what I was doing that night to just randomly stumble upon it. And then like it was like a 3 hour video and I watched it. I think I've watched that tour like 6 times. It's so amazing. I love it. So I always knew I wanted to like do live music and I've always been looking at different tours. I was like looking at like Katy Perry, Ariana Grande, like just like big production type tours. And I was like, these look really interesting. I'd love to just like learn about it. And then I saw Beyonce's Homecoming tour, her like Coachella performance on Netflix, where like she gave us like a behind the scenes where she talked about like, oh, I have a creative director, like a choreographer, like a tour manager. And I was like, oh, okay, so like there's different roles in this. And so I was researching that a little more. And I stumbled upon Tour Management 101, which is like a panel with a bunch of different huge, amazing tour managers, kind of just like giving you a brief overview of what they do and like what different roles you can get in touring because there's so many. After the first episode, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life, actually. Yeah. So I just kind of just immediately started working on a network to kind of just like be around more people who were like me and who wanted to do the same thing as me. So I was on Facebook groups. I was on Girls Behind the Rock Show, Women in Live Music. Finally got a LinkedIn and posting on my LinkedIn, like I was just searching up tour manager and seeing who would come up and literally talking to anybody I could. And I got to shadow my first tour manager. I randomly found her on Instagram, did not know her at all. I was like, hey, you have a job I want. Can I come meet you? And she's like, yeah, sure. So I met her, and that was honestly like one of the best days of my life. She like showed me around the venue, showed me like a tour bus. I did merch for the first time. She had a twin sister who was also in tour managing. She showed me master tour, what a rider looks like. She showed me what a day sheet looked like, and I was like, what does DOS mean? And she was like, day of show, babe. And I'm like, okay, cool. So, yeah, and that whole crew just like made me feel like such a family. So I was like, I knew it was achievable and I knew I could be around people who had that job. So I felt like it solidified that it's very reachable for me. So then I started working in like my local venues. So I was working at that same venue for a little bit. I was doing production running. I did doors. I did merch. I was a promoter rep for one gig, and I was really just trying to like figure out like what within touring I was good at, what kind of skills I could use that I already had. And then the second tour manager I shadowed, he was the one that took me on my first tour, which was amazing. And I had no experience back then. The only experience was like tour managing this local Toronto group. We did a few festivals. Very grateful for them. Love them so much. And from that, it kind of showed my work ethic. And even if it's this festival, I've never done a festival before. I'm going to do my hardest. I'm going to try my best. I did all these day sheets. I did everything, tried to make everything perfect. And I think Craig, which was the tour manager who took me on my first tour, he really saw that. And he saw that like I was kind of just eager and determined to like do whatever I needed to do. So he took me on my first tour, and that tour is still the biggest tour that I've went on. I went to Europe and the UK. It was the best thing ever. And I was really doubting myself when I first got the gig. I was like, I have no experience. Like, I'm grateful for the opportunity, but it's like, why'd he pick me? He could have chosen 1,000 other people who actually have experience and who have actually been in this role and can do a really good job. And he was like, no, like, you showed me that you are prepared to do anything and you're determined. So I know that you're going to do a good job. You work hard. So here's your experience. Go. And I'm like, okay, cool.
What was your role on that tour?
I was a production coordinator, so I was pretty much Craig's assistant. So when I got the offer, like all the hotels and most of the flights were booked. So I finished with all the flights and I did all the ground transportation and artist hospitality. So yeah, it was not just like rider for the festival, like the artist had his own rider for different hotels that I had to make sure were up to par. It was a fly tour, so it's like cars going to and from the hotel, to and from the venue every day. It was a lot, but learned a lot. Literally like one of the best experiences ever. So grateful for that whole crew.
Hell yeah. I think that's probably the best way to learn is to get thrown into it and get hands on right away.
Literally. They'll throw you in the deep end. They will.
Yeah, being a production coordinator for a pretty big artist for your first tour gig can be pretty overwhelming. So, how was it adjusting to that?
Um, it was it was good because I had him to lean on for a lot of it. So basically, when I was doing all the logistics for it, it was kind of just like, okay, like let me know like who I need to email and like I'll figure out the rest basically. So he would give me like the emails of people and I would email them. And it's kind of like you don't know what you don't know until you know. So like, oh, even though like you advance for this car at this time, you have to make sure to get their number and text that driver in the morning to make sure that he's there, make sure he knows how many people, how many suitcases he has. And before this tour, like I didn't know that. I was like, it's already advanced. Like, why would I have to text him? He should already know. And then the time comes, lobby call comes, and there's no car there. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Awesome. So it really it really depends or like last minute changes and you have to make sure the driver is aware of these last minute changes. It's like which entrance of the venue do you want him to go through? If he goes to the wrong entrance with the artist, he could be met with fans and you don't want that before the show. Like it's just stuff like that. It's just a lot of little tedious things and I didn't know what to look for until those mistakes and accidents did happen. So they throw you into the deep end, but it does help in the long run. So very grateful.
Yeah, and I totally relate to when it came to not knowing something until you were put in that situation and you're like, damn, okay, well, now I know for next time.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I get it now.
I mean, as long as you learn from the first time, then you're golden.
Exactly. I mean, it's like you learn the first time and you're like, okay, well, now like I'm adding that to the list of something to remember for the next time so it doesn't happen again, which that list is getting long, girl. The list is getting long.
Yeah. You always have to be like 10 steps ahead.
Exactly.
I forgot how we connected, but I remember meeting you and just like my impression of you from LinkedIn and Instagram is like this girl's super dedicated to learning whatever. Like she's trying to get all these opportunities and connect with all these people. And when I heard that you got your first tour gig, I was like, Maya, let's go.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my God, it was so good because the first tour manager that I shadowed, Whitney, she like gave me my first tour offer. So that I shadowed her in the summer and then that fall she was like, "Okay, I have a tour next summer and you're going." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Love that."
Yeah.
And then the second TM was the one who took me on my first tour. So that tour just ended up happening earlier. So I was like, okay, after graduation, I have this stuff lined up. So like it's getting like a little consistent, not gonna make any promises, but getting a little consistent. So I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. And 5 tours later, I'm here. Finally, finally have a break.
How was your experience going out on your first tour as a tour manager? With it being such a big role, did he do anything to prepare for it?
So I didn't really have much time to prepare, honestly. I got the interview for it, I think like a month and a half out, but they didn't actually give me the role to accept until 2 weeks before the tour started. So, but everything worked out with the time. I was able to at least book a lot of hotels in advance and renting the van and start advancing all these emails. And I was tour managing the support. So I was in contact with the headliner tour manager, and he was amazing. I coincidentally met him before from a concert. We met for maybe like 5 minutes, but he was super chill. So when I found out he was headliner TM, I was like, oh my God, amazing. So he helped me a lot. He kind of gave me a nice rundown, would call me every week and be like, okay, have you done this yet? This is what you need from me. This is what I need from you, stuff like that. So to kind of make that transition super easy for me. So I really, really appreciated that. Preparing for it, I was just trying to make sure that I was remembering everything I could, like production wise, what do we need? Do we need a console? Because we were bringing a front of house or audio person. So it's like, do we need a console? Are we using house? Are we bringing lighting? No. Are we renting our gear? Yes. How do we rent that gear? How is it getting to us? Are we using a van? Do we need to take out any seats? Like, how much gear are we carrying? Just stuff like that. And I was just trying to remember as much as I could just so that when the tour actually started, I didn't have as much work to do. But yeah, the transition wasn't too bad because I had Avery. I also had management who was also aware that this was my first time tour managing. So they were very helpful. It's like, "Oh, okay, like what information do you need from us? We'll help you as much as we can." And one of their managers did come on the road with us. So that helped me with learning like what the artist like specifically. So yeah, I'm very happy with that transition, very blessed because I did have a lot of people to help me. And it was during the tour where I kind of had to be like, okay, this is my show now. Okay, no more training wheels. This do this myself.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's a lot. But you did it.
I did it. Came back alive and slept for I think a week straight.
Nice.
I was like, Mom, love you so much. Will not be coming out of my room.
Yeah. Oh my God. That period after you come home from tour is just like no one bother me for a week.
It's either that or I'm super hyper because I'm so used to everything being go, go, go. So I'm like, I'm home, like I'm gonna wash all my clothes like as soon as I get home, rearrange my entire room, do all this stuff, and then I crash.
Okay, well, going back to, I know you mentioned learning about different roles that are on these tours from Tour Management 101, which shout out, they're awesome.
Love them.
I also have used them as a resource for learning about the whole touring and live event space. So through Tour Management 101, was it there that you figured, oh, I want to be a tour manager?
With that, just because they were tour managers and like just how they were describing how their day in the life went, I feel like I relate to that the most. I didn't really relate that much to like production managing, audio, or lighting, even though I did try lighting on this past tour. We had to set up our own lights and do our little computer thing. Love that. Might try that. But like, I just resonated the most with that. And I felt like the skills I already had being a psychology graduate. And yeah, just communication in general. I felt like I just resonated with tour manager the most.
Okay, okay, we love that. You definitely give TM vibes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, do you actually want to give like an overview of what a tour manager does?
Yeah. So a tour manager oversees everything production, logistics wise when it comes to a tour. So a tour manager is normally hired through an artist manager and they do everything from the budgeting for how much money allotted for the tour will go to what, renting the gear, how the merchandise will be managed, hotels, transportation. So if it's a bus tour, if it's a fly tour, if it's a van or a bandwagon tour, and communicating with all the venues, saying this is what we need, this is what we're bringing, and kind of just communicating with that. So you're the main representation for the artist when it comes to venues on what they need. You're basically just their regular manager on tour. And yeah, so you do a lot of advance work before you get on the tour. And then when you are on tour, it's kind of just carrying it all out. So you have a schedule every day that you follow for the most part, having to get there, setting up. You're normally doing emails for most of the day and then making sure everything is good for the artist and the crew for when they need to be on stage. And then you load out and then you do it all again the next day. And yeah. And then after tour, it's kind of just cleaning up any loose ties if it's like accounting wise or like production wise, like, oh, this merch needs to go back here, these rented cases need to go back here and such.
Busy, busy day. How is it being on the road and you have all these responsibilities? Like at a certain point, do you ever burn out when you're on the road?
So I definitely do get stressed on tour. I think the big thing with tour managers is you try your best not to show that stress because if you're stressed, everyone else will be stressed because you're the one that we're coming to for everything. So if you're stressed, we're stressed. So I try to not show that as much as possible. And my thing is like, it may not be the healthiest, but even if I'm feeling burned out, I kind of just power through it as much as I can to kind of just get through the day. To kind of help me like in my well-being, there's sometimes we maybe like go out for like a little breakfast or something, and maybe if there's catering, we'll have a lunch, but not really. I normally eat late at night, so instead of like a Taco Bell, like a McDonald's, Uber Eats around, like I try to do a CVS or something like that, like a convenience store. Well, sometimes they have like fruit cups or something, or like granola bars to kind of make it a little healthier. Um, I try to stretch as much as possible because being in a van in one position for 8-hour travel days will kill you. So I try to stretch as much as possible, try to get as much sleep as I can, even if it's traveling 30 minutes, I'm going to sleep because the next morning it could be an early lobby call and I'm just like, oh my God. So try to sleep wherever I can. Yeah, I think right now, just for me, I'm still kind of in that stage where I'm kind of still trying to prove myself. So even though I'm stressed and I may be like burnt out in the moment, I'm like, don't show any weakness. But that will change. And I do have to get better at that. But yeah, I feel like I've kind of just been trying to do the best that I can to kind of like get through the day. And then as soon as the day is over and I could rest, I'm like, okay, now is recharge time. So yeah.
I can relate to you when it comes to not wanting to show weakness in front of others. I am totally guilty of this. I try not to be visibly stressed out, especially when I'm working in a leadership role where I'm overseeing other people. The last thing I want to do is cause others to stress because they see me stressed. I know it's not a good thing, but
Literally, it's just that mentality of I'm strong, I can do it. I'm young.
yeah, it can be challenging sometimes. And I think because I'm such a workaholic that I kind of thrive off of the long hours, but eventually the time comes where my body starts to fail me and I think, dang, okay, so this isn't that sustainable after all.
Yeah, yeah. I feel on this last tour since I was TMing like the last week of it, I think I got sick from exhaustion. I was like, okay, I'm fine. Like I was doing merch managing, so I was like, okay, no, I'm good, I'm chill. And then the last 8 days, I was like, I'm running out of steam.
It just hits you like a train all of a sudden.
It really does hit you like a train, and you don't feel it like truly until you get home. That's why you crash so much.
Okay, what would you say are skills that would make a good tour manager?
Um, It may be like an obvious skill, but communication skills are so key. Not just in the sense of, oh, like you need to know how to like write professionally in an email or make a good resume or something. It's like communication in the fact that every tour you go on is going to be a different crew with different personalities who have had different walks of life, have different experiences. You're going to have to learn to work with all those people and with this job, it's not like you see them from 9 to 5, and then as soon as 5 is done, you don't see them again. You're living with these people essentially. You see them every morning, you see them before they've had their coffee and they're grumpy and they don't want to be there first thing in the morning, which same sometimes. So you have to really learn how to manage all those different personalities and also communication in like what we were talking about before. You can advance an email and you can put everything in the most simple terms. And as soon as you get to the venue, something will go wrong. Something was not communicated. So this person is like, oh, you were talking to the production manager, but the production manager is not here yet. This is a day of show contact who has no idea what you guys have. And it's all these different things. So communication is key, both written and spoken. So it's always making sure that you are saying things 5, 10 times if it needs to be. And also, which was a big challenge for me, is kind of learning when to be nice and when to be assertive. It's like, these are things that I'm doing to be nice. If I need a favor, it's like, oh, yeah, like if you have time, can you do this for me? This would be really helpful. But sometimes it's just like, no, I need this. This is mandatory. We already talked about this. This has been agreed upon. This is a deal breaker. I need this. So, stuff like that. communication skills, number one key.
Yeah, knowing how to communicate effectively is super important. There's been so many situations I've been in where time was wasted or something was overlooked because the information wasn't communicated with everyone that should have had that information.
Ugh, we gotta do better as a society.
Okay, so through everything up until now, during your time working in live events, getting these opportunities and being thrown so suddenly into new roles, have you faced any challenges so far? And what did you do to overcome them?
Um, challenges. Challenges I've had to overcome. I'm super introverted. So when I found out that the main thing to get your foot in the door was networking, I was like, oh God, I have to talk to these random people, these professionals who have been doing this for 10 plus years. And then here's me. It's like, oh, hi, I don't know anything. Just teach me everything you know, please and thank you. It's so crazy. Um, so networking was a huge thing I had to overcome. And even though like it was super hard for me and I was anxious the day of, like I would have nothing else to do today but that coffee talk, sweating, thinking about it. It's kind of just I don't see myself not being a tour manager. And it's kind of like if I want to be a tour manager, I know this is what I have to do, even though it's hard. And it's like success is never easy. Your version of success is not going to be something that is easy. You're going to have to do some hard stuff. So I was just like, okay, this is just something I'm going to have to do. And it did not get easier for a while. For like the first few months, I'd be sweating and pacing around my room. Then my mom was like, isn't this your 10th coffee talk? So, it was something I had to overcome. Also, what I was talking about before with kind of being assertive, being introverted is kind of like some stuff I let slide, but if it's a priority for the artist, you're gonna have to fight for that. And that showed me in standing up for my artist, it also showed me kind of how to stand up for myself and be able to confront people and that same communication skill of being like, this is not what we agreed on, this is not what my artist likes, so we're gonna have to do this a different way. And confrontation is very hard when you grew up not having to do that. So that was also a huge challenge for me. Another one was time management. Oh my God. There is like so much stuff to do and everything just seems top priority. So you're just like, okay, I don't know what to do first because everything seems super important. And I'm still very much learning that. So it's trying to just figure out, okay, what do I prioritize first? How will this affect my crew if I do this one first and this one later? Just stuff like that. So yeah, those were some really huge challenges that I had at first, and I'm still working on.
Oh my god, networking to this day for me is so hard. I still get nervous doing coffee talks. I've also had trouble in the past with being assertive and working on tour and being put in those situations sometimes where I do have to assert myself and stand up for my artist. That took some getting used to. I think that's how I learned to be more assertive. Just thinking with that mentality that I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for my artist and I want to make sure that they're happy.
Exactly. It's just like this is for them and they're the boss. So even though it's really not that big of a deal for me, if it's a big deal for them, it's a big deal, period. So we gotta do what we gotta do.
Yeah, exactly. And also learning how to manage so many things. As you mentioned, there's dozens of things you need to get done. Like, all of this is a priority.
hmm Oh gosh, it's like this merch thing needs to be done now for the merch crew, but also this production thing needs to be done. Which one do I do first? Who's gonna get more mad at me? It's that's the decision. Who's gonna be more mad at me? Okay, cool.
I like that. That is the criteria right there. All right. Okay. So, what is some advice you would give to others who are trying to make that jump into working live events and touring?
I think the main thing is showing other people and yourself how dedicated you are and how ready to work you are. Showing it to others in the networking sense, make sure you're posting, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, even if it's like a small, like, hey, I just attended this event or like I just volunteered somewhere, just to kind of show people like this is something I'm really interested in. This is something I'm really proud of that I'm doing because I've never done it before. Kind of just to show people that this is what you like and that you're proud of it. And showing yourself in the sense of, I think it's super hard for people to get in the mindset of, oh, like I can be a tour manager, I can do all these big things because it's so experience based and you've never done it before. There's no job like that that you could experience before doing the actual job. You're trying to believe in yourself in something that you've never done before, and you literally have no idea the scope of what you're getting yourself into, but you're like, I want to do it. I don't know what I want to do because I don't know the job yet, but I'm going to do it and I like it. So you kind of have to get over that hump of insecurity of, oh, like I can't do it because I don't really know what I'm getting myself into. It's kind of this leap of faith that's like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know this person, this person, this person who have done these jobs. I'm going to try and reach out to them and see if they want to talk to me for 30 minutes. If I can go to their concert, even if it's not to shadow for the whole day, if I can just meet them like 5 minutes before doors just to say hi, even if it's talking with a friend of a friend and seeing if they can introduce me, just stuff like that to show like I can reach these people that are in the spaces that I want to be. So it is possible for me to get there, especially with the fact that almost everybody I know, like you involved, we have such different paths into getting what we want to get into. Like nobody I know has had the same way of getting their foot in the door. It's so different for everybody. So another thing is comparing yourself to people, and that can also discourage you as well. But there's so many different ways. I had no experience, none at all. And I went on my first tour in Europe. Like it's crazy. So it's like you kind of have to believe in yourself that even though you don't know the full scope of what the job is yet, it's just like, you know what? I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to do that merch. I'm willing to do doors. I'm willing to run, kind of just to see what that life is like and the kind of people I'm going to be around and the environment it is to get there. And yeah, I think that will draw people to you, drew me to you. I think that'll draw people to you and will get like-minded people close to you, which will always help you in the long run.
I definitely agree with that point. I feel like I was the same way. I wanted to surround myself with people who have similar career interests and passions. And if not, like it inspires me to see all these other people who are doing all these things and getting all these opportunities. I feel like it inspires me so much just from watching them and hard work they put in. So I really enjoy just being in a community of like-minded individuals.
Hmm. If you have true people with like true intentions of like, hey, I want to get there, and they're in the mentality of, I know that there's room for everybody. Everybody will get up there somehow. Everyone will reach their goals. Those are the best kind of people because they lift you, you lift them, and it's just such a team effort. And then we all get to work together and it'll be so fun.
I'm the same way. I'm just like, dude, I don't care what tour it is, but if I could work with all my faves on one tour, that would be amazing.
Oh, bless. The best time. The best time.
But yeah, I'm also the same way about like not comparing yourself to other people because I feel like I did that so much early on. I still find myself doing that sometimes, but like you said, everyone's journey is different. I don't think I've met anyone who works in live events who has the same story to tell. It's like, oh, how did you get started into this? And it's just like you'll hear 15 different ways of how to get into being a tour manager.
Literally, it's like, oh, like I met this garbage man who worked at a venue. He knew the dog of this. I'm just like, okay, cool. Whatever got you here, girl? Do what you gotta do.
Yeah. At one of the venues I work at, the PM likes to bring his dog sometimes, and he's the cutest golden retriever ever. And if the venue has a dog, of course people from the tour are going to want to meet it. So there's people coming by local production all the time to see the dog, and he's such a great conversation starter.
Imagine someone's like, I met Lisa. We were just petting this dog at the same venue, and then we ended up talking, and we know the same people, and then they were looking for whatever they do, production assistant, tour manager, and then I got a job because I was petting a dog. Like that's how it happens. That's a secret.
Yeah. Um, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. Don't compare yourself to others because everyone's journey is their own and unique. And also, yeah, you were talking about basically having to get out of your comfort zone. So doing the things that scare you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It's really kind of like that leap of faith that's like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but hopefully it will be good. Yeah, like with my first tour, he just offered it to me and I'm like, all right, so like where do we start? And he's like, okay, so you're gonna do all the ground transportation. This is the email of the person you're gonna be talking with. Go. I'm like, oh, all right. And like he never doubted me for a second. This is all the motivation I need, actually.
Oh my God, yeah. Happens so many times where you just kind of get thrown into the fire head on.
Mm-hmm. Sure. All right. I guess I'm gonna have to figure this out myself. Cool. And then you're just like thankful because you eventually figure it out. Like, okay, thankful for the experience, can put it on the resume,
There's not a whole lot of hand holding.
which is fine. I feel, yeah, that's how you learn.
Yeah, that's the best and quickest way to learn.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. We've been through it. We've been through the ringer already, girl.
All right, Maya, thank you so much again for taking the time to come on the podcast. It was such a pleasure to get to hear from you and everything you've experienced and accomplished in your career thus far.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Lisa. This was like our normal little Zoom calls where we just catch up all the time. So this was just so seamless. So thank you so much for that. And when we get to work together, which we will, because I'm manifesting it, we'll look back on this and we'll just be like, oh my God, remember when?
It'll happen, eventually. Until next time, Maya, talk to you soon. Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Women Advancing Live. If you enjoyed the conversation, make sure to rate the podcast and give us a follow. You can also check out our Instagram at Women Advancing Live and our website www.womenadvancinglive.com to stay updated with all news and content. Also, definitely make sure to follow Maya over on Instagram at Maya_J_Main. That's it for today. See you down the road.